You guys may have heard about the story of a big game hunter who was crushed by an elephant that he was hunting in Zimbabwe. I saw this story getting picked up a little bit on Twitter, and a lot of people were pretty happy that this guy was dead, death to poachers, and he's an awful person. Let's not forget that he did leave behind 5 children and a wife. This story in general is pretty tragic, but I wanted to dive into it and talk about it a little bit with my friend and roommate Jay, who's joining me on the show today.
Hello, guys.
A little bit more about this story. The hunter was guiding a group of hunters on a Friday near a village called Hwange in western Zimbabwe. And elephant hunting with a license is not illegal in Zimbabwe. A friend of his, who is also a big game hunter based in South Africa, said that anytime an elephant is killed by legal hunters, its meat feeds people in nearby communities. Other defenders of big game hunting say it boosts tourism revenue in developing countries and can even help conservation efforts by effectively raising the value of wildlife in a way that discourages poaching. Now, of course, there are opponents, including myself, of big game hunting. Opponents object to the killing of wild animals, including some species that are in danger of extinction. The World Wildlife Fund lists African elephants as vulnerable, noting that 415,000 are now living in the wild, down from 3 million to 5 million a century ago. Obviously, there is a demand for ivory, the largest market being China. There's just a larger discussion to be had about big game hunting and poaching that I don't think was being had when I saw it going on Twitter. A lot of it was like, a poacher's dead, fuck that poacher. And while I absolutely am opposed to poaching and hunting, I just don't think that the issue is as cut and dry as just celebrating the death of a guy who had a family. And how is it that big game hunting has become a way of life, has become a business for to support communities in Africa? I think that's the larger conversation that people miss.
That's the interesting thing, is there has become a distinction between straight up poaching and actual big game hunting, the industry.
Okay.
In the US, we don't really have to deal with endangered species that are being hunted down and killed. But there is still a hunting industry, and there's still, seasons when you can go out and hunt, or there's certain reserves where you can go out and they have it stocked with deer or, partridges or whatever else. People shoot doves, I don't know.
It's awful.
I've never gone hunting
shooting
before.
The peace bird?
Full disclosure, dove meat, I have no idea how it tastes.
But
Africa, they have many reserves like this where there are, elephants and
giraffes,
antelope, giraffes, all these
lions,
sorts of big
leopards.
Game. And you have to go through a proper licensing procedure, and you have to make sure that you have all the right credentials. So there's still a process that you have to go through if you're trying to go for the big game. You still have to, you're paying the government out a lot in order to get to that point anyway. And it's ultimately, like it says, there's benefits to big game hunting. But there is a distinction here, because the trick is, as we learned by reading the story together, is that the hunters had gone off the reserve by accident, and they had stumbled onto a private area where it was reserved for elephants that were breeding. And that's where the gray area comes in. So I think that they had good intentions. I mean, as good intentions as you can if you're going out and being a big game hunter. But this guy, he's a successful businessman. He's a guy who has a wife, his family, and he was doing what he could and what he was good at to help sustain his family.
Yeah,
I don't think we can fault him too much for that, in the same way that if he was out there and he was making his entire business from poaching, in the same way that if you had a guy, if you were to run up on somebody who was running a money laundering operation for the mob, right? Now, they weren't in the mob themselves, but they ran, I don't know, a pizza place. I don't know why I'm being so stereotypical with this, but let's go with a pizza place. So if they're running a pizza place and they get shot at a deal that goes wrong, it's an occupational hazard, right? It's not the most clean business. It's not the most above board operation, just like big game hunting is not the most well received or above board thing to be doing with your life.
It might be the worst, actually.
Yeah, because as far as legal things go, it's pretty high up there. But I do think that it exists in a gray area that has legality, and I think that you shouldn't fault somebody for doing something that they are legally allowed to do. And if they unfortunately die in the line of work, and then it's a tragedy too. You know, it's a real shame that this guy had to, he just wasn't up to the task.
Oh my God, did you just say that?
I've been waiting to say that for the entire taping and I just couldn't think of a good time to do it.
Awful, awful, Jay. Look, here's what I think. Here's what frustrated me about this story is that obviously big game hunting and poaching in Africa it's sort of a gray area, especially when we're so far removed from it in California. It feels like it's so easy to come down with the high moral ground. Like you absolutely cannot, no matter what, you can never kill an elephant. Even though that is absolutely how I feel, I was disappointed with the knee-jerk response that I saw online celebrating the death of a guy without understanding the nuance of how a business killing endangered animals has flourished and how it could form. I think that I would hope that especially our viewers would be a little bit more inquisitive to be like, all right, this story, we shouldn't celebrate the death of a guy, even though it is very ironic, I know, about how he died.
Yep.
And some people were saying karma. I think that you have to ask a few more questions about how he got there. How did he get there? How is he supporting his family off of this business? What is the demand here? How can we move in a different direction if we feel so strongly that you should never kill elephants?
It's an industry. It's a part of the tourism industry.
It's not like he just loves killing elephants and he just gets off on. I have to believe it's not that simple.
I don't think it's that simple either. He's probably, if he's a big game hunter running a big game hunting business where he's taking other hunters out on essentially on hunting trips.
Hunters, not unlike I believe Donald Trump Jr. Doesn't he have that photo with like an elephant tail?
He's got an elephant tail.
It's fucking worst.
But I think that there's more to the story, and you can't just skim the surface on this one. You gotta go deep.
So we want to hear from you guys in the comment section below. What did you hear about this story and how it was received on the internet? Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and we'll see you next time on Pop Trigger.